Well, hello and welcome. You can see I'm in my living room, and happy I am to be able to speak with you. And I thought that it would be interesting to tell you some of my thoughts, because I have been reading a book by Emma Hardinge Britten, and I just found some, shall we call them, discrepancies, and some things that made me quite cross. And although I'm not given to passing on any anger or crossness that I might have, I thought that I should say a few words about this in the interest of truth. And of course, as you know, I'm a spiritualist, I'm a Christian spiritualist, and I also have a Jewish background. That's my heritage. So I thought that I would talk about this book, which is, as you see, by Emma, and she called it The Faiths, Facts and Frauds of Religious History. And I know that this is upheld as a very interesting, good book to read if you want to know the truth. But in actual fact, the title belies its contents. So I'm just interested, as we all are, in the truth. And as Emma Hardinge Britten was as well, in her time and of her time. And a bit of background to that. For some years, I've written monthly articles for the printed newspaper Psychic World. And these have covered many spiritualist subjects, but it's suddenly ceased to publish so far this year. And I suppose this article, this talk, would have given rise to one of those articles. But I thought, why not just speak to you about it? And in fact, it's thoughts about progress and discovery about which I'm prompted to share with you today. This is a special time in the calendar for those of the Jewish faith, as was Jesus, as it is the days before the New Year, or Rosh Hashanah, as Jesus would have said. A time of contemplation and a time of personal spiritual decision for good or ill. Well, I thought to myself, well, my contemplation, I think I'll contemplate spiritualism, and I picked up that book of which I speak. Now, this instruction to the Jews is to be found in the Bible, the book Deuteronomy, chapter 11, verses 26 to 28. And now we know it was never written in chapters of a book, or as we know it, but on a scroll or piece of writing material. And the Deuteronomy or Mishnah were written copies of sermons given by Moses during the years of the Exodus around 1406 BC, and at the end of the 40 years of wandering endured by the nation of Israel. At the time, the people were camped on the east side of the Jordan River, on the plains of Moab, across from the city of Jericho. Yeah, you can check that out in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 1 and 29. Right. Another fact is that these words were not written in advance, but taken down by scribes, just like the reported speech of Jesus nearly 1500 years later. But now, just because history has been orally transmitted for thousands of years does not mean that it is all muddled or even a figment of somebody's imagination. My grandfather told me things about our family going back hundreds and hundreds of years that I later, on investigation, found out to be absolutely true, even though I was incredulous at the time. So, as Emma Hardinge Britten avers in her book, The Faiths, Facts and Frauds of Religious History, the archaeology, the monuments of antiquity testify alone. So she was saying that the words are not to be trusted. Without doubt, a wonderful and sincere orator for spiritualism. She has done it no favours, in my opinion, in this book, with her anti-established religion stance, coupled with her unfortunately confused reasoning against Christianity in particular. And Miss Hardinge Britten quotes extensively from sources and authors whose writings are questionable and I could assume were basically anti-Semitic too, as were many in their day, like Charles Dickens, for instance. The Godfrey Higgins that she quotes says this on page 100 of her book. You see, that's the thing. You know, people who want to say things often say them through the mouths of other people, don't they? So one has to wonder. And this Godfrey Higgins says something like, well, he's having a go at the Essenes and saying that they couldn't possibly be a Christian community because they lived for so many years before Jesus Christ. But of course, nothing was called Christian until they were called Christian by a Roman emperor sometime after the death of Jesus and resurrection, of course. Now, what he says is about the Jews, which I object to her writing down as well. And don't forget that Jesus was a Jew. It talks about what the Old Testament is probably a collection of tracts mixed up with traditions, histories, and rumours of events collected together by the priests of an ignorant, uncivilized race of shepherds, intermingled with the allegories and fictions in which the ancient philosophers veiled their learning from the eyes of the vulgar. And he talks about a collection of different myths, the Pentateuch, and he says here they're put together in so awkward and unskillful a way that they would have passed as the work of one person, with none but such uncivilized barbarians as the Jews, if they had related to any of the common concerns of life. I won't continue. I mean, it's just so infuriating. So there you are. You can be infuriated with me about that. Well, now the other thing is that moving swiftly on from that, if I can try and collect myself after that because it's so annoying. And she continues to quote researches, as she calls it, of someone who is now proved to be wrong on all counts. I won't even mention his name. Now, she again repeats all this stuff. And she says, for instance, there was no such place as Decapolis. She's looking in the Bible, you see. Well, she's not looking. She's taking this man's word as gospel. Now, the fact is that there was and is. And it was a district on the east and southeast of the Sea of Galilee, containing 10 cities, which were chiefly inhabited by Greeks. It included a portion of Bashan and Gilead, and is mentioned 3 times in the New Testament, in Matthew and Mark. These cities were Scythopolis, i.e. city of the Scythians, or Scythians, ancient Beth-shean, the only one of the 10 cities on the west of Jordan, Hippos, Gadara, Pella, to which the Christians fled just before the destruction of Jerusalem, Philadelphia, ancient Rabat Ammon, Gerasa, Dion, Kanatar, Raphana, and Damascus. When the Romans conquered Syria, 65 years before Christ, they rebuilt and endowed with certain privileges these 10 cities, and the province connected with them they called Decapolis. And then she says, again, no Bethany beyond Jordan, now excavated and called Al-Magtas on the west bank. So, wrong again, I'm afraid. Then she goes on to say, no such place as Aenon, and calls it a fiction. Now, also excavated, the 6th century Madabar map shows the location of Aenon right across the Jordan from Bethabara near Jericho. Now, you know, we really have got to take all this with a pinch of salt, don't we? Now, Bethabara is in some, but not all, versions of the Gospel of John. It's the place where John was baptizing during his encounter with Jesus. And the map and archaeological findings at this site indicate that at least during part of the Byzantine period, this was the site venerated as Aenon. And Sychar, she says, is no place ever known, but it is now a place of pilgrimage in Nablus. It's within a monastery there, should you go. She also says no trace of Bethesda, where healing took place, has ever been found. Well, it has now, and it's in Jerusalem. So you see, what really got to me was the fact that such a book as this is basically sort of almost hailed as sort of like almost biblical in itself for those who want to rubbish Christianity, or even Judaism, dare I say it, or any of our modern westernized religions, albeit they came from the Middle East in origin. And of course, our spiritualism comes to us from America, the New World, and very appropriately so. But I don't think, you know, I think it's a pity that things are considered to be almost written in stone that could well do with having their innards pulled around and had to look at and remedied where they're found to be lacking. And I know that Emma Hardinge Britten herself would be sorely grieved that she's now been immortalized as this woman who has written so much bilge in support of what some people use as an anti-religious effort on their part, particularly by some spiritualists. And I would like to see it edited. Of course, that's something else I could do. I would offer to do that. If anybody's listening. I mean, the SNU republished this in 1997 while I was still editor of Psychic News, funnily enough. And I did also in 1995, while I was on the Press and Public Relations Committee of the SNU, I did modernize The Rock of Truth, written by Arthur Findlay, spiritualist scholar. And I made it far more acceptable to a modern readership. I took out his racist comments, and I also abolished the generic terminology where it seemed old hat now. I used inclusive language for his thoughts, but other than that, the work itself was left. But they decided not to go with that and to republish it as it was. So I left that committee. I couldn't stay with reaction. And religious reaction is to be found even in the places where you don't expect it. But certainly I would suggest that anybody picking up this book, written, of course, in good faith, my little pun there, you know, to see how somebody actually, you know, look at this. My eye falls on this. As for Christianity, the apex of ecclesiastical power and pride, what loss would accrue to humanity in her downfall? The ghosts of ancient faiths arise to convict her of audacious plagiarism, or is that plagiarism? And the vanished, plagiarism, probably right, and the vanished generations of 18 centuries return to accuse her of overwhelming the earth with oceans of blood and tears. She adds nothing to the science of true religion, for she throws no light on the solemn problems of life, death, or deity. I mean, this is it's quite extraordinary. And on top of that, this is a woman writing about a religion dear to millions and billions, as a female, almost in the tradition of the Jezebel archetype. So I would take issue with that. Having spoken to you just now about inclusive language and non-generic terminology. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed my little rant. I just feel that if people have an objection to any religion, that they ought to look at it dispassionately, to use as much scholarship as they can, and not to allow their own prejudices, perhaps, to mar their research. And I think that, as I said, I would love to sort of look at that again, look at this book and bring it up to date, really. And the fact is this, that she has said the faiths, facts and frauds of religious history. And here she is propagating that same, you know, skewing of fact. And the fact is that there are so many things, aren't there, that we are asked to take on trust, just like my granddad telling me all about my family's history, or his side of the family, that is, of course. My mother's family is separate, as we had two lots, don't we? And I think we need to look at what we can take from those biblical accounts, and in the light of our spiritualist knowledge, see through to the truths that are actually there, and not to dismiss it. And where Emma Hardinge Britten lauds the pagan ways, you know, natural religions and so on, of thousands of years ago, I feel that perhaps my own heritage prevents me from embracing that attitude, because we all know what went on all those thousands of years ago, and when humanity was in its absolute infancy. And I do object to seeing the people who I belong to, and Jesus too, of course, and all those people that were trekking around in biblical times, Old and New Testaments, rubbished like that as some kind of, you know, barbarians And I don't think that people who did what they have done, what they did, could by any stretch of the imagination be called barbarians. And yes, it was the Bronze Age, and humanity was in its infancy, but these were people struggling to rise up out of that morass and make something good of life for themselves and other people. And I think that prejudice doesn't have any place today. So yes, I'm sure that there were plenty of people wandering about who were neither followers of the Jewish faith or after that Christianity, and after that Muslim faith, and all the others. I don't think that they mean any harm to anybody, and they are all trying very much to make this life a better life for all of us who live in this world, and of course looking also towards that world of spirit to which we are all going to go back to when we're finished with this here. But there. Oh, I think that there are some people saying good morning. So good morning, Suzanne and Margaret and Alan. Reverend Alan Acton. Pleased that he's watching. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this little talk and it's given you something to think about, something to contemplate, along with all those Jews who will be contemplating in the run-up to the New Year. And the Jewish New Year has a different calendar, of course, to the Gregorian, and it will be 5,782. Wow. Now, so I don't think that it's a difficulty for you to imagine that, you know, the things that were written down all those thousands of years ago are worth looking at. And as St. Paul said, discern the spirits. And I think that we could extend that to discerning everything that's said to us. And the end of Emma Hardinge Britten's book was very stirring. But you know, you cannot tell people wrong information and then sort of stir them into some kind of enthusiasm for the actual religion that you're putting out, which of course in her case spiritualism. So I suppose I should mention that if you want to find out more about my kind of Christian spiritualism, we have a website which is www.newchristianspiritualistsociety.com. And of course, I have my own website, and that is Lyn Gibb-de. No, it's lyngestiswalt.com, because I was married before and I have married again. And there. So I wish you the very best. I hope that you have been given something to think about, that you'll have a look at the Bible, have a look at all those amazing things that happened, because they were amazing. It's wonderful. And to think that when we pass back to spirit, that we'll be able to, you know, those of us who would like to, will be able to converse with those people that lived on this planet so many, many, many years ago before us, and to find out, you know, how they were, and to see them. You know, I'm sure they will show us how they lived and exchange their thoughts with us. And I know that, you know, I didn't have anybody to write down my words this time, and if it wasn't for this recording device that we have, you know, our new technology, it would be lost forever unless somebody wrote it down. And that, of course, is what happened. And sometimes people didn't have a pen and paper handy when Moses was giving forth. So, of course, they'd have to remember as much as they could and then write it down when they could. And that's the same all the way through. So enjoy. God bless you. May he make his face to shine upon you, give you peace. Goodbye for now. Bye. I'm trying to find where it says end broadcast so that you don't have to listen to me for too many more minutes. And I'd like to say cheerio to everybody. And oh, nice for you to get it off your chest, Susanna. Yes, I suppose it would be. Yes, yes. What one has to do is not load off our angst onto everybody else, of course. But it really did infuriate me. And there I was thinking that I was going to contemplate, and I picked up a book to contemplate, to aid in my contemplations. And because we were asked to look for, you know, basically what is a blessing, and I found that I had to be grateful for, yet again, the thorn in my side, which I was advised to do by Ursula Roberts a very long time ago, that wonderful, wonderful medium. And she said to me to be grateful for the thorn in my side. And one has to be. And Ursula, of course, was crippled with polio, so she well knew about that from a physical point of view. And I think that, you know, this book needs editing. If anyone's listening. God bless, God bless.